So on number 4, we need to remember that when you have a variable equaling a number, you go to that axis, you go to that value, and you draw a line right through it, right? So right here where it says, it's not in slope-intercept form, it says x and a number. You're going to go to your x-axis, you're going to go to the value of 2, and you're going to draw a line right through it. Now, the line is going to be vertical, up and down, and it cannot be solid because it does not have a solid line underneath it. So let's all draw a dotted line going right through that value. Okay, so we drew the line, we decided if it was solid or dotted, and now we need a shade. There's always those 3 things when you're graphing inequalities on XY plane. You want to draw the line, make sure it's solid or dotted, decide if it's solid or dotted, and then do the appropriate shading. So on this guy, it says x is what? Less than 2. It doesn't even have y's involved. So you don't even have to look at the y-axis at all. You just focus in on the x number line. So here's 0, here's 1, here's 2. Which way is less than? Left. To the left. Less than is to the left. Greater than would be to the right. So because it says x is less than 2, you're going to go to the left of 2. So you're going to shade in. And this is what I would like you to do. Don't get crazy on the shading. All right, don't get crazy on the shading. Do some light shading. So I'm even switching my pencil here to do like some skinny lines. Light shading on that side of the red line. Okay, now let's look at the other one. And the other one I'm going to do in blue. Okay, the other one, it's almost ready to graph. It's in standard form. I want it in slope-intercept form. So let me go plus x. So what do I have left? I have y is less than or equal to. The inequality does not flip because I didn't multiply or divide by a negative. If you did multiply or divide by a negative, you'd have to flip the inequality. Let me rewrite what I have here. Instead of 2 plus x, I want to put x plus 2, which means that my b value is 2 and my m value is 1 over 1, just in case you forgot. So that blue line, it's going to cross the y-axis at 2, so you kind of ignore what you just did. Just go back, pretend it's a blank graph. It starts at 2, and from that point, you're going to go up 1 over 1, and you're going to continue to go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, and use that same pattern backwards to get all the way across on the other side of the graph. Now, you got to ask yourself, is this blue line solid or dotted? Solid. It is solid because it has a solid line underneath. So it has to be solid. So let's do a solid line through those blue dots. And last question is, do I shade above the blue line or below the blue solid line? Look at this inequality. What does it say? Y is less than. Now, would that be above or below? Below. So let's shade below. And again, let's do some light shading. Light shading. So check it out. Light shade right here. Light shade, light shade, light shade. All below the blue line light shade. So we have 4 areas, guys. We have this area up here that's just in red. We have this little tiny triangle that has no shading at all. We have this other area that's just in blue. And we have this triangle that has both red and blue. And this is the triangle that we want to represent. We want to represent the overlap piece. So the overlap piece is what you really shade in. So before, where it was like, oh, shade in lightly, you could get crazy now on the shading and make sure you really shade in this overlap piece. This is what matters. If you flip over the worksheet, you'll see that they don't even show any of this other part shaded. They only show this triangle shaded. And it's important that when you do look at your multiple choice answer on the final exam and you're looking for the right graph with the right shading, the triangle has to have this solid. Let me switch back. It has to have this side solid, and it has to have this side dotted, and this triangle shaded. So that's the only thing that they're going to show on the multiple choice. So the overlap is what matters. Okay? I hope this helps. Is there any other one you guys would like to see? These guys, you're going to have to change them in slope-intercept form. They're in standard form. Subtract x, subtract x, subtract x, subtract x, rewrite it, then graph them. Decide if they're solid or dotted. They're both solid. Shade them. Really shade in the overlap piece. So is there any other one you'd like to see, or just give you time to work? 7? Let's take a look at 7. If you have different colored pens, right now is the time to use them, right? I want to use the red to represent the top inequality. So it's going to cross at the value of 1. The B value is 1. I know that because my B value is 1. It crosses the y-axis at 1. The slope here is 1 over 1, right? 1 over 1. So from that point, you're going up 1 to the right 1, up 1 to the right 1. And you go all the way across and use that pattern backwards to go all the way across this way. Once you have your line, you decide if it's solid or dotted. What do you say, solid or dotted? Dotted. So you could put a couple more dots between the dots if you want. You don't have to. And the other one I'm going to graph in blue. Where does the other one cross the y-axis? At 1 also, right there. Now what do I do from that point? Down 1 over 1, right? So down 1 to the right 1, down 1 to the right 1, and so on and so on and so on. Use that same pattern backwards to go all the way across. Is this blue line solid or dotted? Solid, because it has this solid line underneath the inequality, so it is solid. Oh man, I totally forgot to shade. Dang. Whoops. Okay. Let's go to the red one. Let's go back. I mean, and if you did this on the quiz, it's okay, because you could always go back, especially if you use different colored pens. If you use pencils, it'll be a little. If you use just a pencil, it's going to be a little harder. But let's go back to the top red equation. Am I shading in above or below the top red equation? Above, because it says greater than. So lightly shade above. Oh wait, let me do it in red. I'm sorry, man. I am just messing up here. Lightly shade above the red line, lightly. And the blue one, if you look at this one, does this say below on the blue one? It's also above, right? So on the blue one, you also go above. So lightly shade in the blue one above. Now, where do you really need to shade in? The overlap piece. So that triangle right there is what you really need to shade in. So, yeah, it's a lot of colors. So I'm doing the overlap piece in green right there. So that's about it, guys. I mean, again, look, this bottom triangle, there's nothing. This one's just red. This triangle over here is just blue. You want to really represent the overlap piece. And on the back part of your answer, it doesn't even show any of this stuff. It just shows this top triangle with the solid line right here and then a dotted line over here. That's all it shows. It doesn't show anything else. And it shows this really shaded in right here. It doesn't show any of this other stuff. It only shows this triangle. That's about it, guys.